Hey guys, and welcome back to the podcast. Really excited to be joined by Tumaini, who's joining us from New York as well at the US Open. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Good, yeah. Been here since Sunday. Been here a while, but ready for it to start now. Really.
Yeah, you obviously been watching the mixed doubles as well, and joined some of the media conferences for Media Day and some of the practices. So we'll touch upon that in a second, get your views on it. But first of all, actually, I need to ask very importantly: am I saying your name correctly?
Uh, no, it's Tumaini.
Tamani. Okay. Oh, that's actually
Yeah,
easier.
yeah,
So perfect. Okay, cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Well, there you go. Sorry, Tamani. So for those of you who don't know, Tamani works for the Guardian. And actually, do you want to talk a little bit about very briefly, like what you do for the Guardian?
Yeah. So I'm a sports journalist at the Guardian, I guess. Also, like essentially the tennis correspondent. So yeah, just I'd say I cover about like 90% of my work these days is tennis. 95% that's probably. So yeah, I cover the whole tour. Travel quite a bit. Go to the Slam, some of the Masters events as well, the team events. So yeah, it's a lot of tennis all the time. But yeah, I enjoy it a lot. I enjoy just writing about the sport. I enjoy the challenge of just trying to write decently, and but also like obviously speaking to the players, building relationship with people, trying to just like get the find the most interesting stories and themes to write about. So yeah,
Yeah, amazing. Living the dream. Living the dream. No, it's great to see. And obviously, you asked some great questions, I can say, from experience as well when I was at Wimbledon. So, yeah, great meeting there as well. And yeah, I can tell that you've built some really good relationships with the players as well. So, shows that you're doing a great job.
thank
You've
you.
obviously been at the US Open now for a few days, and the mixed doubles just happened. The doubles specialist did get the win. So, I guess a tick and a big W for the doubles players out there. And obviously, there was a little bit of talk about that as well from Sarah Arani in the post match. What was the whole tournament like for you from your perspective? Do you think it was a success, and do you think they should keep the format? Does there need to be some tinkering potentially?
Yeah, I mean, personally, like when they announced it, I was definitely skeptical of, particularly as this is, I mean, it's kind of a competition that has, as in the mixed doubles, it's been there for so long and in its general form. So like when they decided they're going to shift it to qualifying week, also that the entry kind of procedure would, I mean, they basically just changed the entry kind of rules to favor singles players, and also so it was like eight players with singles based on singles rankings, 8 teams based on singles rankings, and then 8 wildcards. So it's almost entirely so that they could get as many singles players as possible in the draw. So I was skeptical about that, but I did think that like I did enjoy it, and it was definitely a success. I mean, personally, I think one of the kind of one of tennis's best selling points, I guess, or just like distinct qualities is the fact that the top male and female players share stages at events all around the world, and it's quite natural and normal, and everyone's used to it. And also, in my opinion, I think it's great that at the slams at least, like it's also equal prize money, and but despite that, you almost never see top male and female players together on a court unless it's like a proper exhibition where they're just like hitting giggle, doing just rolling the ball in, or I mean, literally only when like the one practice session finishes, and say like Alcaraz finishes his practice session, and then Swiatek comes on. That's normally the only context where you'll see male and female players, the top ones, together on the same court. So I did really enjoy like just seeing these partnerships come to life. And I mean, obviously, the best ones really were Draper and Pegula. I mean, given just the level they played at and how they played, and then of course Swiatek and Ruud. That was great. Um, and yeah, so I thought that aspect was great. And also obviously it drew a lot of just attention and massive crowds, and um, like it certainly generated a level of buzz. Um, but at the same time, like I also totally recognize and understand the frustrations with doubles players who, I mean, it's not just that they changed the competition and try to allow singles players in, but they, basically tried to stop doubles players from entering really. And so it was kind of a poetic ending that they only double specialist team, I guess you could say, what won the title in the end, and I mean performed really well and just showed their skills. So I, I mean, I think it's certainly going to come back next year, and they won't be changing it back to the traditional format. But I definitely think that the format could be at least changed to give doubles players, better, allow more doubles teams to come in. Honestly, weirdly, I was thinking, like the other day, I was thinking maybe, and I'm only being half serious here, but like maybe the most interesting way this could be presented is like almost like a Labour Cup style event where you have singles players versus double players, like single teams versus double teams, and they just go at it. Since everyone's always arguing, which is better at doubles. So maybe that would like there would actually be some stakes there because no one wants to lose. But I don't know. It's definitely like I don't see the US Open turning back given how successful it was, and the full Arthur Ashe Stadium crowd. But we'll see. Like, yeah, I guess the bigger question is if any of the other slams to, follow suit. What did you think?
Yeah, it looked like it was in terms of fanfare. Obviously, the stadium was packed. I think they showed a comparison between the final for the mixed doubles last year compared to this year, and this year the stadium was packed. Last year it was sparsely filled, and that's not ideal for a Grand Slam final. There was a lot more interest. I mean, I never really, I can hold my hands up because I don't normally watch doubles, to be honest. And I did try and tune into some of it because I was interested to see how the singles play. So I caught some of the Alcaraz Raducanu match when they lost, obviously, to Gula and Draper. Caught some of the Swiatek Rude, and I was interested to see how do they adapt to singles? How do they fare against the Iranis and Vavasori, who are two of the double specialists? So from my perspective, I was definitely more intrigued by it, but I definitely see why. Obviously, the doubles players would have been probably rightly so, definitely to a degree, outraged by the fact that they weren't really allowed to enter because he said it's based on singles rankings. So I wonder whether there's a happy medium where they're still keeping the format as is because clearly the format works in terms of the shorter sets and it's quicker, and you obviously want some of those big stars coming in and playing, but maybe they need to add a couple more of the Iranis or Vavasori type pairs and
Yeah,
almost try and chuck them in with those quote unquote stars, and then actually they will gain their own following, and then it will compound year on year, and then you can start introducing more and more. But I think it's a balancing act, right? Because you don't want to miss out on an Alcaraz and Raducanu for they will say for example for a doubles pairing. So I think there's definitely a balance to be had on that. What do you think of the scoring format, the fast four format? Do you think that was good? Like in terms of because it's quite unique, right? We haven't seen that really.
yeah. I mean, in general, I don't like it. I don't like fast forward. I think it's the best. I think. I mean, as everyone always says, that the tennis scoring system is amazing, and a six game sets allow teams to and players to come back right when someone gets a lead, but the lead isn't necessarily safe. Whereas in fast forward, and as we saw, like it's almost as soon as someone got a break or something, it was really difficult for the other team to come back. So there were a lot of like one-sided sets, like 4-2, 4-1, where it just things went quite quickly. So, but I did. I mean, in this format where it was over 2 days, two matches per day, I do get why it was like this. And like so, it was, I mean, it's quite necessary, and so I think that worked actually. And again, I was quite surprised that I kind of enjoyed that side of it as well. And some people actually thought that maybe the final should also be fast forward, but I also appreciated the final being a proper six game sets. And I mean, the result was that there was actually a dramatic comeback from Rude and Swiatek, who Vavasori and Irani were serving for the match, and then they got was quite an amazing break of serve actually off Vavasori's serve, and then forced the final set tiebreak. So yeah, I actually think that's part of the format worked quite well.
Nice. So from your perspective, what would you change next year, if anything, then in terms of the format, scoring, the pairings? Like, how would you tinker with it to make it like one level up?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, there needs to be like the scheduling part of it needs to be sorted. Like, it can't be the day after the Cincinnati final. That was ridiculous. Like, it was what Swiatek did was amazing. She did her. I think she finished her press like at like 10 p.m. that night. 10, after 10 p.m. and then like 14 hours later, she was on court in New York. So it was like quite like crazy. Like she did that. But that shouldn't really happen because, I mean, if you want the best players in this competition, then there's always going to be someone who's playing the Cincinnati final. So I think that needs to be sorted. There needs to be a day between the Cincinnati final and this event. Yeah, I do think like generally I'd say just more doubles players. Double doubles teams should be allowed to come in, and I totally get that. Like, probably even I maybe US Open organizers do not. That's the last thing they want because if even if like if it ended up with Irani and Varasori against a doubles team, then in the final, then that's not going to necessarily generate as much interest. So yeah, as much as I think it's fair that those players should be allowed to compete, I could also see the US Open organizers being really strongly against that. So yeah, I don't know. In general, I think it was like that format. The format was okay, and like it served its purpose in a way. So yeah, and I don't think it could be longer, for example, because that's when players would, and like over 3 days, for example, because that's when the top players definitely wouldn't want to play. Once it becomes a bigger commitment. And one more thing. Sorry, we need to stop pretending that it's a Grand Slam, like an actual Grand Slam. That was actually the most annoyed I was it was when the semi-final of Jacob Pegula versus Swiatek Rude, that was also a really good match. But the announcer was saying that Casper Ruud is playing for his first Grand Slam title. Jack Draper is now a two-time Grand Slam semi-finalist, and that it's not just that. It's obviously not really a Grand Slam, but also they were kind of like overdoing it because, I mean, in a normal doubles like match, the announcer wouldn't be saying that, right? Like, I don't think I've ever heard someone refer to just Pegula as like a. I think she must have two. She has at least two double like US Open finals. Maybe she got mixed doubles final, and maybe one with Coco. I can't remember. But like, no one's ever like Jessica Pegula is a multiple Slam finalist. So I don't know why they felt the need to do that though. But yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting as well because I was actually going to touch on that. I'm assuming it seemed like the players they were taking it seriously to a degree, but like, I think they knew as well it's not really a Grand Slam, right? As in the sense that it's not going to be held in the same esteem as them winning a singles Grand Slam, right? So if Ruud was to win this, he wouldn't retire. If he were to never win another, have a chance of winning another singles Grand Slam and never capture one, he wouldn't retire and then say to his grandchildren, "You know what? I won my Grand Slam, the mixed doubles of the US Open 2025." So I think that's probably what they need to bear in mind. And it's interesting because I saw the clip, and I'm assuming you were in that presser when Jack Draper alluded to it, essentially saying that it was like an exhibition. And I think he was trying to say it's like an exhibition in the sense that, like it's fun. But obviously it came across as him saying it's an exhibition, and Pagula was like, "Oh, you should be saying that." But I mean, he's kind of just being honest that really it is, right? That's how they've done it. It's a 2-day format. It's fast four. You've got players who don't normally play mixed doubles because you want to get the fans in. So essentially, you were talking about Laver Cup format, and obviously that's an exhibition as well. So it's almost like maybe a quote unquote serious exhibition. Is that like the feeling you got from what the players like?
Yeah. I guess like you could almost call this like almost like just a special event kind of thing, and a bit like Laver Cup as well. And the thing is, like these players, like in general, they're all so competitive. 99% of the things they do. I'll go into like a player lounge and I see them going crazy over cards or something, or like in Cincinnati, because there was quite a bit of rain, Alcaraz and his team started playing bowling with like plastic bottles. I don't know if you saw that. And Alcaraz was going crazy because he was trying to win. So of course, like when they're on court doing the thing that they do best, and suddenly they're trying to win, like it gets intense. And you could see like Swiatek and Ruud were trying full out in the final, and also in semi-final as well. You saw also like Pegula and Draper were up 8-4 in the finals of the tiebreak, and just kind of froze. They got nervous, which you wouldn't expect from an event that has no stakes. But again, it gets competitive. They really want to win, and that's just how it is. I think so. So on one hand, yeah, they were competitive, trying very hard and trying to win. But at the end of the day, I don't think Swiatek lost any sleep over losing the final the way she obviously would if she'd lost the U.S. Open singles final. So yeah, I think it's fine to like enjoy it for what it is without trying to pretend it's something it isn't. If that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the competitors first and foremost, and as you say, all of the like you've been seeing in the player lounges, etc. as well. But they show the clips on the ATP and WTA website where they're doing some sort of challenge, or they're having to throw like a really large tennis ball into a bucket or something, and it is some sort of challenge that they put forward to the players, and you can tell they're always super competitive, like they want to win in whatever it is, and that's why they're at the level they're at, I guess, as well, because they have that determination, that kind of winning mentality, which is really interesting. But yeah, I mean, on the Swiatek final thing, then you could, you have some people saying she finally lost the Grand Slam final, so streak is over. But obviously, we know that it's not the case. It's completely different to a singles Grand Slam final as well. Should we talk about the singles draws, because obviously they're out? Were you there when it was being done?
No, that's just so nowadays the US Open just reveal it. It's actually
Okay.
I don't like it at all. So they just at 12 midday yesterday they just appeared on the screen basically, which I don't
Okay.
like at all. I enjoy like
Yeah.
at Wimbledon. Obviously you've been there like when
Yeah.
they pull the names out of the hat, and you get to see. You also get to analyze it in real time and to see
Yeah.
some gasps, some surprises. There's some even like last year at Wimbledon they completely messed up the draw, if you remember, and had to like go back and sort it out because they pulled out the wrong names at the wrong time. So I enjoy that. I think it's great.
Yeah.
And so yeah, didn't
It
see it as
shows
well,
that
but it's out.
it shows it's fair as well, right? Because they're doing it
Yeah,
real
yeah,
time.
you see it. Yeah, you see it happening. And certainly, like I'm sure it's
Yeah.
it's almost fine. Yeah, but yeah, it gives people reason to speculate, particularly if there's like a crazy matchup that you're not sure about. I mean, for example, in the mixed doubles, when you suddenly get Draper and Pegula versus Raducanu and Alcaraz, like some people like joking like it was rigged so that Draper and Raducanu could face each other. But if you do actually show you're working, then no one can say that.
Yeah. Exactly. Should we touch on the women's first, actually, because there's some pretty good matchups, and I feel like on the women's side, the field there's a lot more depth. I feel like in terms of quality on the women's side. On the men's side, we know that Alcaraz and Sinner are cut above, I think, the rest at the moment, winning the last 7
Yeah,
slams. But on the women's side, we're having some different winners. There are a cluster of very strong players, but I feel like
yeah,
it's more spread out, and there's a lot more players in the top 50 that can beat each other compared to the men's. So I've got
yeah.
the projected quarterfinals in front of me. So we've got Sabalenka, Paolini, Pegula Andreeva, Keys, Goff, and Isma Swiatek, which will be a Wimbledon rematch as well. I mean, what were your thoughts on the draw when it came out? There's quite a few popcorn matches as well in the first round. Like, what's your feeling in terms of, I guess, who you think is going to potentially do well? Who's got a particularly bad draw and good draw?
So I think I mean I the way things have been this year, I kind of fully expect Swiatek and Sabalenka to both make probably semis. The way they have done, Swiatek's made. Yeah, they both made semis of every slam so far. Swiatek made semi win, and Sabalenka 2 finals and then semi. So I see that continuing. I think they actually both have got like potentially two of the tougher. Well, we'll see, but I think they potentially two of the tougher like quarterfinals, and um, actually Raducanu could potentially face. Obviously, her seeding's not. She's in the ninth seed, so it's not her section, but she's in Paulina's section, so could face Sabalenka in the quarters. And I was going to say Anisimova, if she catches fire, she could be tough for Swiatek, but then I remember the 6-love scoreline, so maybe not. But yeah, anyway, like that. With Sabalenka, she's just so consistent at these slams and just knows how to navigate through these draws. So I think she'll I expect her to be there, and Swiatek's playing just so well and just seems actually also just to be playing with quite light, like she's happy. And I think Wimbledon was a massive kind of shift for her. Like she'd been before her recent struggles, she'd obviously been performing like winning at an incredible rate, but it was always like there was always just a lot of tension with it because she felt the pressure, she felt the expectations, and felt like she was just constantly fighting against that. Whereas winning Wimbledon, it was unexpected on her least favorite surface. That was like I think her reaction to that, rather than relief, was just joy. And so I think that's a kind of a big shift for her. And I think she's like for just seeing her like in Cincinnati, for example, she also just seemed to be in a great mood in general. She seemed to be really happy and content, and that showed on the court, off the court, in her tennis. So that I mean, yeah, I think that they'll be thereabouts. And but the difference between like them and obviously Alcaraz and Sinner in the men's is that they're still beatable. There are still players capable of. I mean, not that Alcaraz and Sinner are unbeatable, but that there are plenty of players capable who have shown that they can beat them deep in these tournaments. So yeah, of the others, I do kind of feel like maybe like Andreeva, she's had after like a really kind of blistering start to the year. It's been tough for her the last few months, but I mean she's still so young and so talented that I think at some point she's gonna kind of explode again and have a big result. So it could happen anywhere really, but I could see it happening here. Curious to see how. Well, do you have any first of all?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting on the Sabalenka point because when she lost to Raducanu, like Raducanu got really close to
Mm-hmm.
causing an upset there as well. And, like we can touch on her in a second because I'm assuming you watched that match or at least in the presses after as well. But for Sabalenka, I think the way she lost to Raducanu, it was a bit like, oh, okay, because she chose to miss the Canadian Open, which most of the top players on the women's side, they didn't actually. They played it. So she
Yeah.
missed it because she wanted to rest, which is understandable. And then Cincinnati thought, well, she's going to make a run. She's the defending champion and she's fresh. And then Raducanu caught fire, beat her very comfortably. Like how she looked, have you seen her practice? Like how's she looking? I've seen she's been doing a lot of promotional work. So she's
Yeah.
quite busy off court. But on court, like, does she look happy, like content? Like, have you noticed anything?
To be honest, I haven't seen much of her. I saw her. She practiced today with Raducanu. Which I'm not sure how that went. I only watched like a few points and then was back in the media center. I mean, in general, like in terms of her general demeanor, she seems okay. And I mean, you're right. Like that loss to Raducanu was bad as well. She got hit off the court and was really poor. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely like question marks surrounding her, and particularly given she's gotten so close in the slam this year, but just hasn't been able to just handle the. I mean, really, I guess she got outplayed by Keys in January, but she's also just not really handled the pressure of the moment very well. So there's definitely question marks around her, but it's just like for me, I find it really hard to see past just her record in slams recently, and just I mean, it's just. I mean, I think maybe like maybe nine of the last 10 or semi-finals, or even 10 of the last 11 now.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely question marks, and yeah, we'll see. I'm not. Yeah, again, I haven't seen much of her in terms of practice, but she's.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Was she in the media day? Did you get to speak to her? Or she would?
Yeah. She did her press conference. Again, she seemed fine. She seemed in good spirits. Said that she's quite she's excited about defending her title, and she's shown that she's actually that's a position she likes, considering how things have gone for her in Australia, winning it back to back and then making the final. So I don't think that would be an issue really. It's more getting it off her own way and her own head, given how things have gone this year in particular.
Yeah, I agree. I think on hard court, as you said, it's about her making sure she doesn't beat herself. I think because she's got the game to essentially blow people off the court, and the serve has been a lot more reliable. So she's now in a position where, as you said, it's about big game management. Like in the big points, can she come out on top and essentially be clutch like she was in the past? And also in the back of her mind, if she starts getting towards the back end of the tournament, like mentally, does she think, oh, I lost in the semis or I've lost 2 finals? And does that start to play on her mind a little bit, or does she just manage to break through it, knowing that she's been there, done it, and actually, she feels like maybe it's third time lucky in a slam final this year as well. But yeah, I mean, I've gone quite boring and predicted a Sabalenka Swiatek final, which actually would be the first time they've played a Grand Slam final as well, which is pretty crazy if you think about the fact that they both won. But it would be great to see, because it's similar to Sinner Alcaraz. We hadn't seen a final between those two until Roland Garros this year, a Grand Slam final, that is. So it would be great to see those two playing as well. But Swiatek, her route is a bit easier because she avoids Raducanu and Sabalenka on her half. And as you said, she's in good spirits. I feel like after the Wimbledon win, she was saying, essentially what happens for the rest of the year, it doesn't matter, because Wimbledon was such a big positive, such a big surprise. She's so happy about it that really the rest of the year for her now is anything that she gets like a bonus, is what I feel. And it's a positive thing because she's playing with a lot less pressure, as you were saying, which is great. But I feel like how do you think she played in Cincinnati? Because she seemed to be very confident and clearly got to grips with the conditions, and the conditions seem to be quite similar to the US Open, right, as well. So it's a pretty good way to, I guess, prepare for the US Open.
I mean, I hope the conditions aren't so similar, because I mean, Cincinnati was probably the hottest event I've ever experienced before, just in terms of just the consistent heat and humidity. It was too much. But I thought she did handle it really well. Like, some players were wilting, some were struggling, some couldn't find their best tennis in those conditions. But she was just very solid the whole time, and it wasn't like, again, she wasn't double bageling everyone, but she was just really there every point, and played also played the key points well, and just played decisive tennis. So again, I think she's just in good form right now. Weird, like, it's funny, she actually some of the worst tennis she played was in the mix, just in the mix. Like, she served pretty well, I thought, in Cincinnati, but then her serve was like completely off in that mixed doubles final. One game where she hit, I think, 3 double faults in a row or something. But in general, I think she's just looking very solid right now, and as I said, just very, very confident. Obviously, like, obviously, first of all, she's the 2022 champion, a former champion here, but the one kind of issue she has just personally is with the balls, and the men and women use different balls at the US Open. Men have an extra heavy duty Wilson ball. Women have the regular ball, which is lighter. And Swiatek doesn't like that ball. She said it flies too much. It doesn't have a topspin. Yet she's still she's still winning. So that's the only kind of one thing that, hey, maybe there'll be a day where she isn't feeling it. But again, given her consistency, I expect to see her have another deep run. And just as you said, I agree with you that it's crazy that that Swiatek and Sabalenka haven't played a slam final yet. And like the previous year, actually, Swiatek was quite, outside of the French Open, she was having difficulties in slams, and as you know, and but this year they've both been really consistent. But Swiatek was 1 point away from the slam final with Sabalenka in Australia, and they played in the semis of the French Open, and then Sabalenka again was very close in the Anisimova semi-final. It's just something just keeps on stopping them. So we'll see if they can finally make that happen, because I also really enjoy that rivalry. I think it just really brings out the best in each other.
Yeah, agreed. It's good contrast of styles, and it's interesting what you're saying about Swiatek and the balls because, like as you said, I think it was historically is what Ash Barty used to say that she hated the regular duty balls and she didn't think she'd ever win there, and she didn't. Obviously, that's the one time she didn't win, but for Iga, she obviously won in 2022, and the topspin aspect, I understand why, but then it's interesting because she won in Cincinnati with the same balls, but maybe as you were saying, it was so hot and humid that obviously the balls probably acted a bit more like the heavy duty balls because it was
Yeah,
so hot, so she got a bit more action on the ball. So if it's a bit cooler in New York, I'm interested to see if there are any noticeable differences. I mean, she hits the ball with so much spin. It's just, I guess, the effect that it has on the opponent, which will be interesting to see whether there's if that changes at all. But it's interesting because Paolini also made the final in Cincinnati, and she hits a lot of spin as well. Her game is quite spin orientated.
yeah.
What do you think of her performance in Cincinnati? She had a much easier route as well. But do you think she's a potential contender for the US Open, or she might struggle given the other guys who are contenders around her?
I mean, she can certainly make a deep run. As I said, I think like on paper she could have a difficult drawing Rebecca, who's been playing who played great tennis in Cincinnati. Um, but I mean, in general, I just find it quite impressive that Paulini is still, both of the Wimbledon and French Open points are off her ranking. She had that kind of initial rise, so she's still a top 8 player. Won Rome final in Cincinnati. Um, she's still, she's still going to the deep end of big tournaments and showing what she's capable of, and showing that it's not, she's not just a one-hit wonder. Certainly, I think there are just players who it does seem like the likelihood is that there'll probably always be one or two players who can just out hit her really, and will just and I mean a lot of players cannot hit her, but there'll be one or two players who cannot hit her and are in good enough form to do so in these big tournaments. So I think that she can have a deep run, but I don't see her winning the title or anything. But yeah, again, it's impressive what she's kind of gotten out of her game, and also kind of relatively late in her career after spending so much time in like relative obscurity in a way, like not in the. I mean, for a lot of the time, she wasn't even a top 50 player. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I agreed. Yeah, she's definitely squeezing the most out of her game, right? She's maximizing her potential, which is great to see. And I think she clearly has some limitations, given she's not 6 foot like a Raducanu, and she's never going to serve 14, 15 aces a match because of that. But what she lacks in maybe physical attributes, she makes up for in her tenacity and just her will to fight for every point. So she's a great example of a really good, really impressive competitor, which is great to see as well. And she does give her all every time she's out on court, which is great. You're going to get good value for money if you go and watch. She's going to fight for every point. From a British standpoint, obviously Raducanu has been playing pretty well, and there's others floating around. But I think Katie Bolter's not been in great form on the women's side as well. Sonia Cartel's there as well, but I think she's probably better on the elemental surfaces. I feel like hard courts maybe not where she's going to potentially make a second week. For Emma, obviously previous winner in 2021, the balls I think do help her game. It just means that she's able to press and go early with her shots and know that she's going to be able to hurt opponents. And we saw, I guess, against Sabalenka that does level the playing field slightly more than it did at Wimbledon, where she obviously was very competitive as well. What do you think of her level? I know you also had like an exclusive interview with her as well, so you can touch upon that. So I guess what have you gauged about her level and also her partnership with her new coach as well, Roy, and I guess just her general demeanor as well. And you can give some insights into talking to in terms of the interesting tidbits.
yeah. Where to start? So in terms of her level, I mean, I think she's playing. I think this is kind of the most consistent level she's really shown since she won the US Open for sure. Like week after week, she's playing solid, like let's say top 25 level tennis. Um, and I think like for much of this year, like she would do well against the lower ranked players, but come up against a top player and kind of get blown off the court, or at least just get thoroughly outplayed. Um, and I think that's kind of something that she's. I mean, the Sabalenka results, both of them at Wimbledon and Cincinnati, at least show that and show her that she's capable of damaging a top opponent, a big hitter, and kind of imposing her game in a way. Um, but I think in general she's been quite. I've actually been impressed by how kind of frank and direct she's been about her limitations. That she's like a well-rounded player. I really like her game actually. Like just as she can take the ball early and tries to be offensive, but also she's a decent athlete. She's really like this year. She's really kind of added more variety in her game and learned that she has that variety. Backhand slice, mixing in, I don't know, a drop shot sometimes. But like she needs she's the one who said like she needs to improve her shot quality. She needs to be able to have the like greater weight and pace of shot to damage these players consistently. Because in a way she can sometimes get kind of almost stuck in like no man's land in a way where she's like she has a like nice well-rounded game, but like she's not strong enough to really go toe to toe always with the best players. But defensively she's solid, but can't defensively she's not good enough to defend the whole match against Sabalenka, and so I think that's like the next step in her game, just kind of improving the quality of shot. And I think it's good. Like it's good for her that she has Francisco Arroyo here, and the fact that she's. I think it's actually very big that she's kind of trusted, like an outside voice, someone she doesn't know, because like over the past year in particular, and since I'd say like over the past year, 18 months, given what's happened in her life and all the all the outside opinions and criticism and just the craziness surrounding her. I think she became very insular in a way, not in a bad way, but just like she began to really put her trust in people she already knew. So she was, her previous coach before was Nick Cavaday, who she worked with from when she was a child, and then after that split, and she tried a few different coaches, but then ended up obviously with Mark Petrie on a kind of informal basis against someone she knew from before the U.S. Open, before she won the title there. But I think the last few months of kind of working on and off with Petrie and just finding consistency in her game and her level, and finding more contentment and being happier. I think that's kind of allowed her to kind of get to a point where she's happy to like put her trust in a stranger and seek out outside voices and try and bring someone into her circle, and not be afraid that it's gonna just all end badly. So I think she's her game looks solid recently and needs improvements obviously. I've also liked how like over the past like couple of months she's since I worked with Petrie, she's really kind of focused on trying to become a more forehand dominant player. That's been a really big change for her. Trying to take control of the baseline with that shot, whereas obviously, like historically, her backhand's her best shot. But yeah, but I think it seems like she's in a good place, and that was definitely evident to me in the interview. Like I saw her a few times in Cincinnati and spoke to her like twice, on two occasions for that interview. But like in the past, there were times when you could obviously see that she was not in a great place, and she was not that happy, and just didn't look, things look challenging for her basically. Whereas it did seem to me that she was just just seemed quite relaxed and quite happy and quite happy to chat, and I mean, yeah, she just seemed in a good place. And yeah, I mean, in that interview, we talked about quite a few different things. Like she talked about, for example, I mean, there's a lot about her difficulties. We talked. I mean, I think you were there, right, when in the press conferences when people were kind of asking about whether she was dating Alcaraz, and I was like, I was cringing so much during at Wimbledon, and we were laughing about that. And she talked about just like what's given all the attention, the paparazzi, the stalkers she's had, how that's kind of changed her life in a way. she doesn't leave the house without someone with her now, someone watching her back, because she's lost that kind of independence, given she's had people stalking her. But then other things as well. She talked about that there was a coach. I have an idea who, but there was a coach or people in her team who would tell her she wasn't tough, and she kind of that was difficult to deal with, and ended up with her overtraining and getting injured and having this two wrist surgeries and ankle surgery. Um, and yeah, but she also talked about how kind of content she is, and how things just she's in a different place now. She's happy. She goes to the court wanting to improve every day and become a better player, and that brings her a lot of contentment. And so that's what she wants to continue doing. So yeah, it was good, and yeah, again, I just think she was in a good place and really happy to talk as well, which was from my perspective was nice. Um, and yeah, we'll see if she can just continue that and continue improving, because certainly I think this has been the past like 5 months. She's steadily, gradually improved, and so if she continues at the rate she's been going, like I mean, I could, I think she's already like top 25 in the race or around about then, and I think she should like the aim should probably be to be top 20 by not aim, but like I could see her returning to the top 20, say early next year, first few months of next year, if she continues like this, the way she's been playing. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, no, I think she probably is more engaged, right, in your interview, because as you said, she seems a lot happier, which is great. And I think with the new coach, it sounds like he's very analytical, and she herself, I think with previous coaches, she didn't complain, but she pointed out that she would ask a lot of questions and kind of challenge a lot of her coaches, and sometimes she didn't feel like she was getting the response and like feedback that she was looking for from them. But with the new coach, he actually is very much on that wavelength, so that's probably a good thing. And it'll be interesting to see if they do manage to make it work. But it seems like he's very much carrying on the forehand centric, I guess, work that Mark Petrie was working on, like you were saying, about dominating with the forehand and also working a lot on the serve. She's been going for more on her serve, and there seems to be slight technical tweaks, which I think is a big plus, because that's one aspect where she was getting attacked quite a bit, especially on the second serve. So something for her to improve on her second serve points one has been improving steadily in the last month or so. So that would be interesting to see. She has a potential, I think, third round matchup with Raducanu, who they played doubles together, of course, as well. So now they know each other relatively well. So that would be a tough match. But if she were to win that, then then who knows, right? How far she can go, because the confidence she gains from beating a player of that caliber would put her in really good stead going forward. So I guess that could be a potential catalyst for bigger things in the tournament. What do you think in terms of then, like, if you were to pick how she's going to fare at the tournament? In terms of result wise, you think she'll get past that Raducanu hurdle?
Uh, I'd say probably not. I think that's so. Like, funny thing is, so she was one spot out of being seeded. Um, so, but as if she was the 32nd seed, as the 25th to is it 25th to 33rd, 32nd. I think that's the bracket. You face the top eight. Oh no, I think actually no, it's even smaller. So I think she'd have to face one of the top four. I can't even remember. It's been a long day. But basically, if she'd been seeded, it could have been obviously that she was up against Sabalenka or Swiatek in the first rounds, or Goff, who's been a tough matchup for her. So that would have been even tougher. So in a way, this is not a like this draw could have been much worse. But at the same time, Rebekina's a really quality player, and she's playing well. Made semis in Cincinnati. Obviously, as you said, just really emphatic win over Sabalenka. So if they were to play, I'd definitely back Rebekina. Just again, also in terms of just the raw firepower and how much she can hurt Raducanu. But I mean, I do think that those Sabalenka results were significant for Raducanu, even though she didn't win. Because again, I think it just shows her that she's capable of being, just going toe to toe with them these top players. Because I think like a lot of it was matchup. I think, and playing against players who are bigger hitters. In like the case of Swiatek, golf, they were you know heavier ball striking, but also better athletes. But I do think some of it was also mental. I think like in a lot of those matches, she'd get on the court with them, and it was obvious that she'd already lost. She already just didn't trust herself and wasn't confident enough in herself against them. But maybe these results against Sabalenka will change that in a way. And if she can keep it close with Raducanu, then who knows what can happen. Um, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's still a tough draw as well. The qualifier has been placed now, so she plays Shibahara in the first round qualifier. But then second round could be Kudermetova, who also reached the semis in Cincinnati. So good player in good form. But I'm pretty sure Raducanu's beaten Kudermetova in the past.
Yeah.
So yeah, tough draw. I see her in the third round, and then we'll see. I mean, if she were to beat Rebecca, in my opinion, it would need to be one of her best performances ever, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. That'll be interesting. Hopefully, we get it because it'll be good for her to test herself
Yeah, yeah.
against the players. It's the only way, right, that she improves her game, which is good to see. Before we move on to the men's quickly, who's your pick then for the women's?
Swiatek.
Swiatek, okay.
Yeah.
And who's your one to watch who's maybe outside the top 10, like a dark horse that you think might not necessarily win it, but might make a good run?
I mean, I feel like not obvious, but like one of the Montreal finalists. I'm curious to see how they do. Mboko and Osaka. I'll go with Osaka. I know she's like public enemy number one right now because of her speech, but and actually, like because that was so the Montreal final. Like from at least from my perspective, that was so bad from Osaka. Just the level, the way she'd obviously played so well and done so well to make the final upper set, and then just completely collapsed. That was actually quite shocking to me how she collapsed. So I thought that might, the confidence she built in Montreal might have dissipated with the way she performed, and then obviously after, and everything that happened after that. But I do think maybe she'll still come here and be confident, and I think she has a pretty decent draw, to be honest. It's not could be I mean, she's had a lot of nightmare draws in the past, but she can work with this one. So yeah, I could see her, her the biggest in her little section, like en route to the fourth round. I think it's Kasakina, who's been in terrible form. So if Osaka wins a few matches and builds up some steam, I think I could see her having a decent run. So I'll go with her. Not by no means an unknown player, but I feel like it's almost time for her to do something big after being now she's been back for over a year and a half. So how about you?
No, I agree. I mean, I picked Sabalenka to win the final, to beat Swiatek in for the first time in a Grand Slam final. That's a pretty big call. And then to be fair on Osaka, I had her actually making the semis, I think, which is pretty big. It's a very big call. But I think, like you, I think she'll pick herself up after the Cajun Open loss. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to her mentality, right? But she's been playing really good tennis. I think actually what's impressed me the most is her movement. Like athletically, she's looked really good. Like she's in really good shape now as well. Like physically, she just looks like she's moving really well. So and that's been a big plus, I think. She's been defending well out the corners, which is a big positive. And like as you said, I think it's a bit shocking to see her collapse the way that she did in the final against Mboka, and obviously the aftermath wasn't great. But she's had a rest from Cincinnati. Hopefully she recovers, and then because her draw isn't particularly hard, hopefully she can gather up some steam, as you said. And yeah, I mean her draws have been horrific. I think she's come back majority of them on Slam, so she surely has to look at this as a big opportunity. She's playing well. The draws lined up nicely. She's in physically really good shape. I mean, yeah, it's now. I almost feel like this is now not do or die, but it's a massive opportunity. I think she'll really kick herself if she doesn't at least make the second week. I think of the US Open, but let's see, because you just never know with the women's side of the draw, especially with what happened at Wimbledon. On the men's side, like I think the projected quarterfinals, I think we've got Sinner Draper, which will be a good one. Obviously, they played in the semis, and then Zverev, Demina, Djokovic, Fritz, which I think Fritz would hope that he doesn't have to face Djokovic in the quarters because that's never been a favourable matchup for him. And then Shelton, Alcaraz, and Alcaraz, Shelton would be a blockbuster. But again, I think Shelton would feel like it'd be a tough matchup, even though you'd be playing at home with the crowd as well. So I'm sure you'd enjoy the atmosphere. What have you found, I guess, from the media days? Obviously, Sinner pulled out of the Cincinnati Open after being 5-love down, had to retire because he's feeling ill. It looks like he's been back on the court, pulled out the mixed doubles as well. Has he done any media? Did you manage to speak to him? And like, how have you seen the draw? Because it seems like Djokovic, from his perspective, he's avoided Sinner in his half, which is ideal because he'd rather play Alcaraz than Sinner on a hard court. I think he beat Alcaraz in the Australian Open semi-finals, so he'd feel like he might be able to do it again in New York. What's your feeling around the draw and around, I guess, talking to the players?
Yeah, so Sinner's, he said he's still like a bit under the weather, but he thinks he'll be good, in the next couple of days. And he's been training, I think, since I want to say since Thursday. So yeah, he's been back on court, and yeah, I think he'll be fine really for the start of the tournament. But yeah, I just kind of expect him to pick up where he left off and continue bulldozing people the way he has been. Or at least when he's not bulldozing, then he's being incredibly clutch, as he was in Cincinnati, winning all the tiebreaks he played. So yeah, from that perspective, yeah, I think I can't see anyone other than Sinner going through that top half. It would be nice. I think it would just be nice to see Draper Sinner a quarterfinal, a rematch. But that, I mean, from Draper's perspective, it's going to be challenging for him. He hasn't done his press yet. He does it tomorrow. But I mean, he spoke in the mixed doubles. He spoke after those matches, and he was talking about just that. So obviously he had a left arm injury, and that took him out of Cincinnati and Toronto. But he said it was also kind of helpful in a way because he'd had a hip injury at the end of last year. He didn't really have he didn't have a preseason at all. So this was kind of like almost a preseason for him, doing a lot of physical work. That guy looks bigger and bigger every time I see him. So
let's go in the sleeveless Viore shirt.
Yeah. But yeah, he's definitely put the physical work in. So on one hand, he comes into this tournament, with obviously no rhythm, no matches, and hard. He's going to have to, just get down to business and find his form quickly. But I mean, he's also obviously such a quality player and has shown it earlier this year. So I think he'll be okay. I think he has a good draw as well. It's not, he has some tough players. Diallo's good player, been playing well. Kabori has been playing well as well. Mazzetti has not been playing well, and that's a really tough first round against especially Carayol. But Draper has a draw, like a workable draw. So yeah, and it's also, I think this is also quite a significant moment for him because it's been obviously this year started really well, but then it kind of like just in a weird way, not even weird, but just like the way it's cooled off has just been a bit almost. I mean, it's definitely unexpected, just the extent to which it cooled off. After a great clay court season, the fourth round lost to Bublik in French Open, followed by a second round loss at Wimbledon. So he views himself as a top player, a big time player. So I think this breakthrough year where he's reached the top five, he could really do with having a big result at Slam, and that may be kind of capped by the fact that he's that Sinner's his projected quarterfinal, but even making a quarterfinal would be a big deal, I think. So yeah, we'll see what he's made of. Again, this draw is something he can work with. And yeah, and then I guess we talk about the bottom half. I guess.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I mean, well, first of all, do you see it that way? Like, how do you see it with Sinner and Draper?
Yeah, I think with Sinner, I'm not too worried about the physical aspects because he's, as you said, he's training and he seems to be in relatively good spirits. So it'll be interesting, when he does speak more to the media, how's he feeling. But it seems like you were saying the conditions were really extreme in Cincinnati, so he probably was just struggling a lot, and he was thinking in his head, like, do I really want to go and like potentially really wreck myself
Yeah,
body wise when I've got the US Open coming up in a few days' time. And I think I'm sure that was in the back of his mind as well, which obviously is not ideal for the Cincinnati crowd, but at the same time, it's part and parcel, I guess, of playing a tournament just before a slam. But I think his game is just tailor made for the hard courts. There's a reason why he's so dominant on them. So I feel like unless your name is Carlos Alcaraz, I think it's just going to be a struggle. I think if Jack's going to play him in the quarters, I mean, he's going to have to serve lights out. I think against Jannik to have any chance, and then just his forehand's going to have to be working incredibly well and try and essentially not him off the court, but he's going to have to try and dominate the points very quickly and take control of them really early, because otherwise Sinner will kill him with his physicality. So obviously Jack, as you said, has put in a lot of physical work, not just now, but in the past, and he's definitely by no means a slouch when it comes to his movement and his general athleticism, but he's still not at the level of a Yannick or a Carlos. So there is a difference there. So I think that's going to be the biggest issue I think for him is trying to close the gap there. But I'm interested to see it, because if he makes it to the quarterfinals, it means he's been playing some good tennis and he's probably in pretty good form. So yeah, I'd be surprised if Yannick doesn't get for that top half. Zverev, I just feel like Zverev's really struggling at the moment with mentally trying to get past the big guys. And I mean, I don't know if he's ever going to win a slam. What do you think? Actually, you've probably spoken to him quite a few times in lots of different tournaments. What's your general feeling around him winning a slam? Do you feel like he will win one in his career, or do you think it's now that the boat has essentially it's left? Like the time has gone for him to win one.
yeah. I don't necessarily think it's like the buzz stuff, just because he's still young enough to do it. He's still not that old. He's still what, like 28 now, 27. I got you're 28. Um, but in terms of, I mean, this has been the same issue throughout his career. He's just, I mean, obviously there's issues with his. In the past, it was his serve as well, his second serve. He's improved that, but his forehand just in the big moments, he's not courageous enough, and it doesn't hold up. And he's not. I mean, you you have to play to win, right? You have to attack. You have to go after it when you're playing against the best players in slam finals or deep in slams. And he will he'll always go back into his shell. And I mean, we saw that, for example, against Djokovic in the French Open, where he was just meat and just wasn't there. So like again, he's won a lot, won many big titles, put himself in a position to deep in tournaments many times. So I wouldn't ever kind of uh like
Rule him out.
out the kind of the possibility that he'll put himself deep in a tournament and the chips will fall his way and he'll get some you know fortune will fall his way. But I do struggle to see him like if like I struggle to see him going through. Basically, I struggle to see him going through Sinner and Alcaraz in a slam, which is, I mean, in many of these slams, that's not all of them, but I think in many of the slams, that's going to be the what you have to do to win them. And even like one of them, like we saw how far away he was from Sinner in Australia, in the final. So yeah, it's tough to see. But again, he keeps on putting himself in like he struggled recently, but I imagine he'll eventually find his confidence again and be going deep in slams again. So yeah, but yeah, if you're asking me, do I see him winning a slam? I don't think so, but it's not impossible, obviously.
Yeah, nice. It's an interesting one, yeah, because I mean he's the other one right in that half, sorry, and then Dimmer is the other one, but he's been playing some decent tennis, but again he's been a little bit hot and cold as well. So yeah, I'm struggling to see Sinner not making the semi-final of that half, and then the bottom half I think is a bit more interesting because you've got Novak, you've got Fritz, you've got Alcaraz, and then Shelton as well. We know Shelton's made a US semi before. We know that obviously Novak has won him many times. Alcaraz is a former champion. Fritz has made the final last year. So all these guys have got good memories here and have gone deep at some point. I mean, do you see Novak making it to that quarterfinal stage? And I mean, Fritz would struggle. I mean, on paper against Novak. I mean, how much more can Novak keep on making second weeks and getting this deep?
Yeah, it's a bit. I mean, for me, like with Novak, it's just hard to say because he's obviously doing something that no one's ever done in terms of being 38 years old and trying to win a slam and having like a vaguely realistic chance of doing so. Just the way, obviously, like the consistency and everything. I mean, he's, in my opinion, he's the third best performer at slams this year. He's made three semis, in each of them. And so, but I mean, and as he said at Wimbledon, he was pretty frank that like at his age and with all the mileage in his legs, he doesn't have the he gets to the semi-final, but then he feels terrible physically because it's so demanding. And so for that reason, he's been out, like he hasn't played since Wimbledon, and he said today in his press that like it was just a personal choice. He wanted to be with his family. He wanted to enjoy his life. He doesn't. He said he doesn't like the 2-week Masters and doesn't want to kind of commit to them anymore. And his his priorities are slams. So that's why he's here. He's here for the slam. That's why he's still playing. Um, so and I actually I get why he decided that. I think maybe even like this year has shown him that given how after Australia, between Australia and the French Open, things were bad, right? He did not perform well in the Masters events, lost early. But I mean, his first matches in a few of them. Yes, they'll bounce back and make semis of the French Open and then semis at Wimbledon. So he probably feels like he doesn't need that, traditional match practice, and he can just come here and still do well. But we'll see. I guess with Novak, I think there are two things with him. It's obviously his physicality at his age, but also just how much he's really willing to kind of commit at this point after doing this for so many years. If he's willing to just make all the kind of crazy sacrifices that he's made, in the peak of his career. But we'll see. I think he can. I think he also I'd back him to make the quarters. Yeah, I think he'll make the quarters. I think he'll be. Yeah, I see him up against Fritz in the quarters, or at least him making him doing his side of it. But again, I think he'll play good tennis. But again, the question is deep in that tournament, deep in after so many matches under him, like whether he can maintain that quality and just physicality, which I mean, based on the evidence of this year, probably not, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's an interesting one because I feel like Novak's at the stage where there's potential for him to call it a day after this year, and we're kind of potentially trending towards that. But then he's having very solid results at slams, and then you just think, well, okay, if this is going to be his, well, he said that he's hoping to be at Wimbledon next year, right? That's what he said at Wimbledon. So I guess he's hoping for at least another season. But I do wonder if he doesn't win a slam this year, does he then seriously think about calling it a day? Because as you said, he's only really here now for the slams. He's not really here for anything else. And if he doesn't feel like he has the potential to win one, then I can see him saying, you know what, I'm done. Because there's kind of no point for him personally to still be playing. But I think he's in a pretty good position in the sense that his section isn't too bad, and then he plays Fritz, who again he's got a very good record against. Then you've got the Shelton Alcaraz quarter potentially, and that's dangerous for Alcaraz. Shelton played really well against Carlos at Roland Garros, and I know it was straight
Very
sets,
much.
but considering it was Shelton's worst surface, if they were to play on a hard court at the US Open, I think that could be a tough match for Alcaraz. Potentially go 4-5 sets. I still see Alcaraz edging it, but it'd be a real battle, I think, for Carlos and a potential banana skin. If Alcaraz were to play Djokovic, who would you edge it towards in the semi final?
Um, I, I'd go for Alcaraz. I think again, like I just given how Djokovic has looked physically at the end of these tournaments, I'd back Alcaraz to get by him. But I mean, with Novak, it's Novak, right? It's hard to ever like count him out or think he can't do something crazy and win. But yeah, I'd back Alcaraz, and particularly if he, I think if he were to play Shelton, that'd be a really tough match. Shelton's real, as you said, like Shelton's in great form. Obviously, won Toronto, really kind of finding his game and just like he's really, I just think he's really improving as a player. Like he's had some glaring weaknesses with his backhand and his return of serve in particular. Also his like shot selection, but I feel like all of them are improving and just yeah, he's becoming a better player and he obviously loves kind of the spotlight and amazing atmosphere. So I think he's going to love coming to the US Open like with with all this momentum, and I think he'll really back himself to go deep. So I think an Alcaraz Shelton quarterfinal would be massive and really just kind of electric. And if Alcaraz were to come through it, which I think he would, even though it would be tough, I think he'd kind of really fancy himself to keep on going. So yeah, it's really hard. I mean, at this point, it's really hard to see past Alcaraz and Sinner being in the final just because I mean they're going for I think it would be their fifth consecutive final and obviously third consecutive slam final. Yeah, so they're really it's just an impressive kind of dominance and the gap seems to be growing in a way. So yeah, and Alcaraz just seems very content, very happy playing. He's kind of I think he's really maturing and just learning how to not only do like the crazy highlight shots and be Alcaraz, but just playing the decisive moments and when he really needs to, just being solid, being consistent, relying on his movement and his athleticism and being smart, and that's why he's been able to. I think he's reached like 7 finals in a row now, so he's been really consistent. So I expect it to continue.
Yeah, agreed. I think he looks in pretty good spirits, and he'll probably be a little bit thankful that he didn't make it further in the mixed doubles because he could rest after the Cincinnati quick turnover. So yeah, I mean, obviously the Cincinnati tournament, he'll take confidence from that as well, no doubt. Who have you got as your winner then, Tony? Who's your winner, and also who's your dark horse for the men's?
I'd say I'm gonna go with Alcaraz. I'm gonna go with Alcaraz. Yeah, yeah. I'll go with Alcaraz. I was gonna say Sinner. It's such a like, um, yeah. You could go. I mean, either one, but yeah, I'd like to think that Alcaraz will adjust after Wimbledon, and in a weird way. Although like grass is his surface, I do think like hard court. Like, I mean, he was really rushed against Sinner at Wimbledon and couldn't really play. Use his variety and play. You know, play with the variation that kind of disrupts Sinner just because it was so fast and Sinner was hitting the ball so cleanly. But in a weird way, I think hard courts, even though this is Sinner's territory, like it will give him a bit more time to play with spin and mix things up and just more time on the ball really. So yeah, I'll go with Alcaraz. And my dark horse, I'm not sure actually. I think as you said, like it's really things are really concentrated at the top right now. Um, but I'd like to Stefanos Tsitsipas. No, I'm joking. he's been he's been struggling. I'm not sure. Maybe like this is an established player. He's top 10 now. I was going to say that maybe someone like Kachanov because he's in that section, or maybe like Surundel. I think someone in that in Zverev's section. You know that the second half. That's something you can work with. You know, so maybe like Surundela. I don't know, making the semi-final or something.
Nice. No, that's fair. Yeah, I think it's a tough one. I think the men's I again struggle to see it not being another Syncraz final, as I would call it. But
Yeah,
and that would be 8 Grand Slams in a row that they'd won. So combined, which is crazy to say. But let's see. I think my dark horse is probably Mpeshi Pericard, but he has to come through Musetti first, and then see how he fares. Before I let you go, thanks for your time as well. I appreciate it. From the last few days at the US Open, could you give us a few, I guess, funny questions or moments in the presses that you could share?
I mean, you mentioned it actually, but I enjoyed the mixed doubles and just seeing like the two, the top players together in press and like so for example, like with Draper and Pegula, like Draper had two previous partners. He was supposed to partner with Zheng, Chinwen Zheng, and then Badosa, but they both withdrew. Pegula was supposed to be with Tommy Paul, and they were obviously it was like kind of a last ditch kind of attempt to get find people together. So they I think the first question in their press conference was how many words have you ever spoken to each other, and the answer was 4, and it was mostly like hi, how are you, like mumbled how are you, but that ended up being funny. Like they're both just kind of cracking up, and like the thing you mentioned with Draper saying exhibition, and then Pegula kind of calling him out, and but then afterwards she was like, I'll just giving him shit. I'll just 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 kind of nudging him. So that was funny just to see that, and kind of on the flip side, it seemed like Ruud and Swiatek were like admired each other a lot from afar, and then it's nice to see them like come together and spend time with each other, and they clearly really liked each other and like built a lot of chemistry immediately. So that was fun. I'm doing a weird story on practicing and when like when a practice hour was up, and when one player's on the practice court and another player comes and comes on for their section. And so sometimes you see like the player who's on the court, like they clearly just don't want to leave. They want to hit a few more balls, and they haven't done everything they want to do. So that there can be like weird like awkwardness and tension there. So it's been fun like asking players, and some of them have said like, oh, just some people just take the Mickey basically. Some people are just staying on the court and not coming off, and they're trying not to name names, but I don't know. That's kind of a funny story I'm kind of working on. But yeah, to be fair, it's not been like this media day hasn't been. Everyone's kind of already like just locked in and looking ahead and quite serious actually. And yeah, it's like the last slam, so everyone's a bit tired, I think, and just trying to like gather their last energy for like a final push. So yeah, we'll see. It's gonna be. I'm excited. Yeah, but yeah, I think everyone's just also a bit drained and just kind of steadying themselves. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, so it's a pretty jam-packed part of the calendar. You must also be feeling it a little bit, but last stretch. But no, appreciate your time as well, and good luck for the rest of the tournament. Enjoy, and hopefully you get some really good coverage and access to the players and articles. It sounds like you've already getting some great coverage as well in Cincinnati and now the US Open. So yeah, all the best with that. But yeah, appreciate you being on.
Okay. Thanks for having me. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's good to finally speak to you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Thanks, mate.